Happy New Year! Whew. After many weeks, we have finally finished moving to our new location. Welcome to the new Cardboard East headquarters. And let me just say that when you move into an apartment and you want to paint the white walls green, that's fine. But when you want to move out and you want to paint the green walls white, now many of you may not know, like most Taiwanese apartments for rental all have white walls because Taiwanese people just love the clean look. I don't know. Anyway, you're not here to talk about my old apartment. You're here to talk about the best board games of 2019 from Asia. Now, in our last video, we went through numbers 20 all the way to number 11, and we also talked about what was going on in the board gaming community and industry here in Asia in 2019. So if you want to know what was going on, head on over to our old video, and I'll link it down below. But we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to go ahead and get to our list, to the top 10 board games from Asia of 2019. Now, 2019 was a really interesting year because there were 3 games that were reprinted, and a few more. You have Rumble Nation, got its 2nd edition. Rise of Hegemonia got its 2nd edition. And Improvement of the Polis got its 2nd edition. I felt weird about putting 2nd editions on this list because I want to talk about more games. But the 2nd editions were my first time to play all 3 of these games. Rumble Nation is a great 30-minute 2 to 4 player war game, and it plays very similarly to The King is Dead. However, The King is Dead can be a little bit confusing for new players, especially the endgame scoring, and I find Rumble Nation to be far faster and a little bit more approachable. Epic of Hegemonia is basically the next game plus of Settlers of Catan. But imagine Settlers of Catan with each different player played a different race. So one has humans, one has elves, one has blobs, one has aliens, and they all have a special ability, and they all perform a little bit differently throughout the course of the game. Now, you could be saying, Jay, this is Korra. This doesn't say Improvement of the Polis, but they're actually the same game. Now, Korra came out far more recently. A friend of mine gave me this copy, and I gave him my old copy. One Taiwanese publisher who wanted to pick up this game for the Chinese edition played the game 50 times with his friends over the course of a weekend, and they created this new streamlined rules, and my copy had that version. So my friend picked up my old copy, and then he gave me this new copy. Now, while Korra Rise of an Empire is a lot sexier looking, I do like the mechanics of the revised edition, and you can find those on the Improvement of the Polis BGG page, which I'll link below. If I had to do my top 10, including these games, they would all probably fit somewhere in the top 10. Kachi from Japan. This tiny 2-player trick-taking card game that plays, I don't know, 15 minutes? Plays very similarly to another trick-taking card game that you might know, and that's Jekyll and Hyde. Now, Jekyll and Hyde was really interesting because one person's Jekyll, one person's Hyde. You play a series of tricks, and then the difference in the number is how much a pawn advances. So Jekyll wants the difference to be very, very small, and Hyde wants the difference to be very big. So sometimes you're trying to win tricks, and sometimes you're trying to lose tricks. Kachi is a little bit different. You're just trying to get a cat to go to your side of the fence, and it's walking back and forth. However, through the card's abilities, there's certain cards that you can play. You can flip the cat over from red to blue, and therefore the loser of the trick, the cat will move towards the loser, and if it's red, the cat will move towards the winner of the trick. And you're slowly trying to get the cat to your side. Now, if I had to choose between these two, I'm going to pick Kachi. Now, Jekyll and Hyde does have a sexier production, I'm not going to lie. Much, much sexier. Metal components are very, very nice. But this one has a little bit more flexibility in the gameplay. And I find that you can manipulate the cat just at the right time to bring home that victory. Also, this has potion cards, and this one doesn't. This just has numbers. So I really like the simplicity of Kachi, and I find it very, very, very smooth. I'll put a link down below about where you can find this copy. No, not this copy. This is my copy. I put a link below where you can find a copy of this game. Your own copy. This is mine. You can't have it. Scout. Now, Scout has been getting a lot of attention lately, and that's because last year, Oink Games released their version of Scout. Now, the gameplay between them is exactly the same. The main difference, however, is that the Oink version is that tiny, uncomfortable box, I say uncomfortable, but it's not really uncomfortable. It's only uncomfortable when you try to put every the pieces back into the box, and it's just really annoying in a lot of Oink games. And they changed the color scheme from like this, what I think is tacky, blue and orange, into, I just hate blue and orange. They just look, blue and orange, and added like a nice circus theme. I like the UI, or the graphic interface of this version of Scout. I find it a lot cleaner and catchier. But let's just get into how this game plays. And it's basically a ladder game. Do they know what a ladder game is? Do I know what a ladder game is? Essentially, you're going to take the deck of cards, you divide it evenly amongst all the players, and then you're slowly going to play cards from your hand. So I play a pair, then we all play the highest pair, then I win, then I get to go again, I'll play a straight, and we go all play the higher straights, and then someone else wins, and they play the single high card, and you slowly have to rid all the cards from your hand. That doesn't sound very interesting, Jay. And that's true, it kind of doesn't. Now the cool thing about Scout is that all the cards are double-sided. Not that there's cards, there's a difference on the back, but there's a difference on the other side of the cards. So each card has two different values. Now what's really interesting, as you're playing, you could use one of your tokens, drop it down, and you take a card that was originally played and you can put it back into your hand in any orientation. And then you make a set, and then you play that set. And that is unique, and that makes the game absolutely fun. This is a great filler game, and definitely one of the best card games from Asia that I played in a very long time. Now, this version, the card quality is a little thin, and I will eventually create sleeves for this just because I like thicker ones. But these are nice, good quality stock, and I've been really happy with this. Now, on BGG, there is a 2-player variant, and it's okay. But I definitely think you need to play this game with 3, 4, and maybe 5. The Oink game does have the 2-player rules within the box, so you don't have to go to BGG. But, I mean, you're here and you probably go to BGG anyway. Moonbase by Itzen Games. Now, if you aren't familiar with Itzen kind of makes interactive art as opposed to games. If you want to know more about Itzen, then you can definitely check out my other video where I reviewed one of the more recent games, Crash Octopus. Woo, that game is good. But we're here to talk about Moonbase. Moonbase is a really interesting 2-player abstract game. The moon has craters, and you put in rings on those craters and slowly building them and connecting them in this weird abstract way. And you're trying to get like as many of single colors as you possibly can, as well as trying to create the rings as tall as you can. This game only has 6 rounds, and it plays very uniquely. I've never seen an abstract game that plays like this. Now, while I don't often reach for this game, if anyone comes to my apartment and wants to play this game, we're gonna play Moonbase. Now, one of my favorite things about this game is that the first player token is the Earth. That's right, you're on the first player token. And you simply move it from one side to the other, as if Moon is moving around the Earth. And it's one of those little things that you don't think about, but it just adds so much to the gameplay. 10, 9, and 8 have all been from Japan, but number 7 comes from Taiwan, and that is Soloween from Play With Us Design. Now, back when I played this for the first time, almost 3 years ago, I was really floored by not only the quality of the production, those wooden components are really nice, but the card stock, everything about this game just screamed quality to me. And it was easily one of the best games of the year, and I still think it's one of the best games in my collection. Now, while the gameplay itself isn't very unique, kind of similar to Othello and Reversi, where you place one piece down and then all the other pieces flip, this one is unique because of particular player powers. In Soloween, you are 2 death gods, or 2 death god students, playing against each other. And you're slowly placing these pieces down in a 4x4 grid. Now, in the base game, you're trying to create straight lines, either diagonally, horizontal, or vertical. But depending on which death god you have, you might want to play things a little bit differently. One of them is the Reaper. He's trying to make one check, he's trying to make a straight line, he's trying to make like a square. Whereas like the Egyptian gods have a black and white that they're trying to flip over, and sometimes they can flip the pieces diagonally adjacent or orthogonally adjacent. And how all the different gods interact with each other is really interesting. And that's where the fun and the joy is. And you want to explore and play this game and play all the gods against all the other gods, and it's just a lot of fun. I wrote a fairly detailed review of this and I put it on BGG as well as cardboardeast.com, and I'll put a link down below and you can definitely check out my thoughts. But suffice it to say, this is one of the best abstract games from Asia, and if you definitely love abstract games in tiny boxes, then I definitely recommend you check out Soloing from Play With Us Design. Number 5 has us going back to Japan to Akazu brand, one of the best publishers from Japan, and that is across the United States. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I love Akazu brand, and I love Hisashi Hayashi's games, but the looks of his games, they're not completely sexy. He definitely leans more towards function as opposed to form. Because I will say one thing about his games, like even though the graphic design doesn't look wow or super sexy, it's super functional and incredibly clear, and I know exactly what's going on every second of the game. Did you hear that, Patoku? I can read what's going on. Well, I don't know if I would call it a cube rail game. It's definitely has cubes, and it's about railroads, and there is a stock function. Now, most cube rail games do have auctions, and auctions really only do well with 3 players, and therefore most cube rail games only play well with 3 players, and there aren't many that play well at 2. Oh, no, I play Chicago Express at 2 people and I like the games. Like, good for you. I didn't. And while I don't think this is the best 2-player cube rails games, this is definitely a lot of fun at 2, and there aren't many that play that well at 2 in under 60 minutes. In across the US, you are placing cubes across the map on the US, and each cube that you place gives you extra bonuses. Sometimes they'll give you more money, sometimes they'll give you stock, sometimes they'll give you access to more gold and more points. You have secret passenger cards that you want to get one passenger from one city to another, and it definitely has a little bit of that ticket to ride feel. But what I love about this game is that it's very, very approachable and very clear to see what's going on. Now, there is a little bit of randomness with that card draw because you don't know what the cards you're going to get, but I still find that the player who plays the best wins the game. I love cube rail games. I like Age of Steam, but I just find cube rail games to be far more fun, far more interesting, and a lot more approachable. And one of my favorite in that top of that list is Across the United States. So if you're looking for train games from Asia, then definitely check out Across the United States. One of the best that plays at 2. Number 4, Rise of the Blitzkrieg by Japanese publisher Banzai Games. Now, this one is a little bit of a cheat. It's not the real game. It's just a print and play version of the game. Everything I got for this game came off of BGG. I got the map, I got the rules, I got the cards. I even printed out my own map. I do want to copy this game, but until I can find a copy, I'm going to be sticking with this P&P. And even though it's a P&P, wow, is it really good. I've been a big fan of Banzai Game for a while now. If you haven't heard of them, Yasushi Nakagoro, the designer and publisher, he's basically, in my mind, perfected the 2-player war game that plays in like an hour. Rise of the Blitzkrieg has 1 player playing as the Nazis, blitzkrieging their way through France. And the other player plays the Allies, plays the British, as well as the French, and you're trying to slow the Nazis down. This is really interesting because while some games have this ahistorical aspect to the game where like, well, the bad guys can win the war, and so everything's different, this one kind of sticks to that historical setting where the Nazis are going to eventually take over France, but can you slow them down enough that you, in terms of this game, win this game? Now, why do I like this game? I like this game because it has bluffing. And the way it incorporates bluffing is really interesting in this game. The Nazis have 3 little bases that they keep under boxes, and they take turns putting units under those boxes. And as the ally player, you have no idea how many there are in each base, but it feels like all of them. Now, the best news for you is that if you want a copy of this game, you can get one. The French publisher Nuts Publishing republished 300, another one of Yasushi Nakagoro's games. And the quality of this was fantastic. And if you really want to explore Yasushi Nakagoro's game, definitely check out this copy. However, Nuts Publishing also picked up the license for 2 more of his games, and one of them is Rise of the Blitzkrieg. Now, I believe this is going to come out sometime this year or next, but definitely keep an eye out on it. Now, I struggled with number 1, 2, and 3. At any given time, one was on number 1, one was number 2, and one was number 3. And depending on my mood for that day, they could switch. So I think all 3 of these could be number 1 from this year. But today, how I'm feeling, this is just how it turned out. Number 3, Remember Our Trip from Japanese publisher Sashi & Sashi. Now, I do think that this is the best Sashi & Sashi game. Now, if you want to know more about Sashi & Sashi, check out my other video where I reviewed all 8 of Sashi & Sashi's games, including this one. Now, early in this video, you heard me say that I don't like blue and orange together. And yeah, I don't like blue and orange together. But this one is so good that I don't mind the cover. Now, remember our trip is really fascinating because it has two designers. One is Daryl Chow from Singapore and Sashi from Japan. And they came together, designed this together, and this game was actually manufactured here in Taiwan. So it should be, by definition, like the best Asian board game of this year. In fact, the manufacturer is like maybe a 15-minute drive from my home. I don't know another game that plays like this, and it's incredibly unique. You're basically placing discs on your board. However, there's a shared board that every player shares. And it becomes this area of control over whose memory is more correct than someone else's. And if you can get a majority in that particular area before anyone else, then you can determine everyone else's memory. It sounds very weird, and I think it takes at least half a game before you have that aha moment and you realize what exactly is going on. Coolest thing about this game is that you have two maps. One of Singapore, where Daryl Chow is from, and one of Kyoto, where Sashi is from. But the board game community has created more maps with more tourist locations, and you can find them all on the VGG page of Remember Our Trip. My number 3 for today of the best board games from Asia of 2019. Number 2 is Natsu Memo, or Summer Vacation Journal, if I had translated. This is by far one of the best roll and write games of all time. Not just of Asia, but all time. I think what's really unique about it is that it's not this crazy little Euro, it's this fun party game where all the players are kids, junior high school kids, and it's the last month of their summer vacation, and they're trying to slowly plan everything out. So you flip over a card, and it's like, oh, we're gonna go shopping. Who wants to go shopping with me? Everyone raising hand, 3, 2, 1, go! And you find out who's going, and you get to give hearts to everyone and build a friendship up with whoever's there. And sometimes people don't go. Sometimes you go by yourself. Sometimes you say, hey, let's go. You don't raise your hand, and someone else raises their hand, and they go by themselves. But you go on these events because these cool little activities all give you points. But the danger is that you also have a lot of homework to do during summer vacation. Yes, that's right. Asian kids in Asia have homework they have to do in the summer. Oh, yes. And for each page of the 25 pages that you have to do, that you don't do, each page of homework that you don't complete is minus 10 points, which is a lot in this game. And this game is hilarious because you have like a dedicated study time with your friends. You have a Wednesday study group. Wednesday we study. We do our homework. But as you get on to the 4th, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th week of the game, you can do your homework far faster because when you're procrastinating, you just get those energies going. But at the same time, that 4th week has the bigger activities. Like you can go to Kyoto, Kyoto, and Tokyo. Oh my god. You can go to Tokyo for like 40 points. You visit your grandma for 10. This game is a ton of fun. If you want to know more about this game, check out my video of the best roll and write games from Asia. And this is also number 1 on that list. And for a good reason. And woo! This game is great. I don't know if this will ever come to the West, but it has been completely translated on BGG and is by far the best roll and write game that I've ever played and my personal favorite. And that has been Natsu Memo Summer Vacation Journal, my number 2. And the number 1 board game from 2019 from Asia, Formosa Tea. Formosa Tea comes from Taiwan publisher Soso Studios. In fact, that's what Formosa means. Formosa means Taiwan. It means beautiful island in Portuguese, but it also means Taiwan. I think what I love about this game is that the art is gorgeous. And everything about this game, the production of this game, looks fantastic. And I know that they play tested this a lot. What was really cool is that they play tested this over a year and they went to all these different tea shops all across the island. And people came, they played this game, and they gave their thoughts, and they tweaked it here and there. And so if you went to one of those playtest sessions, you got to try, I think, 4 different teas for this game, 1 for each round. One of the best playtest experiences I've ever had. This is a spiritual successor to Soso Studios' previous game, Da Dao Chan, which we talked about earlier on this list. In Formosa Tea, you are putting your workers onto the plantation to draw tea. However, you also need to place your workers into these factory lines that are slowly processing the tea. The trick is that once your worker is in the plant, they can't move by themselves. You have to put a worker here, and then they will move forward one space. So it becomes this weird give and take. Do I go here, knowing that my opponent's going to go here and then push me forward? Or do I go here and get the tea leaves, but then push my opponent forward? But I got to get the tea leaves to go here, but I want to go here to get the bonus of moving when my opponent goes here. Great. I think this game plays well at 2, 3, and 4. And while after 30 to 50 plays, I think you've seen everything this game has to offer, I still come back to it time and time again, and I still have a blast. This is one of the lady's favorite games. She likes this game a lot. Now, if you're curious about what this Chinese title means, it's Taiwan 制茶录, which basically means the journal or history or recording of the Taiwan tea production. And that's what you're playing as. You're playing as the pioneers over a century, slowly gathering tea and selling contracts. European game style. The main problem that I have with this game is that the IDs that you have, which give you a nice, cool, special ability, are not balanced. Actually, I don't have a problem with things being unbalanced, because balance is for wussies. The problem is that not all the roles are viable. So like Wu Zhenduo is just so strong. He's just ridiculously strong. And some of the other characters just, they're not that great. Or they're not as good as Wu Zhenduo. Woo!
Can we play it?
Right now? You want to play right now? But if you want to pick up a copy of this game, well then you gotta move fast. I don't know if they're gonna reprint the game for a while. And the final few copies that there are on a few online stores in North America. Now, some people have complained, like, I played this game like 30 to 50 times and I've seen everything you could see in this game. It's like, well, dude, you played the game 30 to 50 times. Like, well, what more do you want? I think you definitely got your money's worth. But I just love the production of this game. I love the gameplay of this game. I love how it scales from 2, 3, and 4 players. And I think it is the best board game from Asia for 2019. At least I do today. Tomorrow might be Natsu Memo or Membership. I don't know. Whew. And that has been my list of the best board games from Asia for 2019. Definitely check out the description below, because I'm going to put down some comments about where you can find some of these games. I'll also include links to blogs and other videos where I also talk about some of these games. Hey guys, if you liked what you see here and you want to see this channel grow, like, subscribe, hit that bell icon, and consider joining our Patreon. And that Patreon campaign is moving all year round. I definitely want to thank our patrons, because they definitely do help a lot. Especially acquiring some of these games, because it's not always easy. Now, I do want to make a video where I talk about how to get games from Asia. But next week is the Taipei Game Show, and oh yeah, we're gonna go. If you're curious about the Taipei Game Show, that was our first video, and while there were some problems with that video, I definitely think it's worth checking out, and you can know a little bit more about the Taipei Game Show and get pumped for 2022. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and welcome to the new Cardboard East headquarters, where we're going to start pumping out weekly videos for 2022. Thanks for watching.